Hello, welcome to this update for the US and Canada. So let's focus on the severe weather in the US on this video. So sorry for the kind of late video because we already have a bunch of watches and warnings, but let's see what's happening. So we have still the enhanced risk there, and the slight risk and the marginal. So the enhanced in parts of Oklahoma, Kansas, uh, and Missouri, and then the slight from Texas to Iowa, and the marginal from Texas to Wisconsin. So the tornado threat is still 10% hatched, parts of Kansas and Oklahoma. So hatched 10% or greater probability of EF2 to EF5 to 25 miles of a given point in the hatched area. So please be careful there. That's a considerable tornado threat. On the 5% as well, a few tornadoes and a tornado or two in the 2%. So be careful in those areas. Severe thunderstorms can produce scare, large hail, numerous damaging wind gusts, and a few tornadoes are expected today into tonight across the middle Missouri Valley and central southern plains, including parts of eastern Kansas, Oklahoma, into Missouri and vicinities. So please be careful there today. The wind is 30% and 15 and 5%, so please be careful in that 30%. So they mentioned the biggest threat today is like wind too. So be careful those damaging gusts, but tornadoes are more destructive than wind in my opinion. So please be mindful of the tornado threat and stay tuned with the warnings. And then hail shows a 15% and a 5%. 15% from Texas to southwestern Iowa, and there's a hatched in Oklahoma and Kansas for 10% probability of a 2-inch plus in diameter hail. So please be careful. Some large hail possible there. So stay safe today. The HER shows that line of storms there, shows already some storms there, and then they go, shows that line intensifying, parts of Kansas, northern Oklahoma, shows some more powerful cells in northern Oklahoma there, and goes into Missouri. That line of storms could have some big damaging wind threat within the line and embedded tornadoes along that 10% to and 5%. So please be careful. Later in the evening shows that line keeps going there, some very damaging wind gusts and tornadoes, and keeps going, and until tomorrow morning still some storms within that line. Tomorrow morning and tomorrow afternoon some more thunderstorms near the Gulf there. So be careful. Please stay safe with the tornadoes, the hail, and the wind there. If you want to see some other models, like there's the NAM2, shows the storms in Iowa, already, and that very powerful line through Kansas and Oklahoma into Missouri there, even into Arkansas. So stay safe in those areas. Be careful. And like the HER again here shows like the Cape. Does show more Cape in Oklahoma and Kansas there. Not much later because shows like the highest Cape, like late this afternoon into this evening, and then later the storm starts eating it all up. But yeah, in the early stages there'll be a lot of Cape, so please be careful there. And the significant tornado parameter does show here like some parameters in Kansas and Oklahoma. This is still quite early, 18Z, and then like later, this is still around 18Z, but now it shows a little bit more in Oklahoma and Kansas. Some parameters. If I put this to like 5Z Thursday, shows this is like very late this evening. This is practically tonight into tomorrow. So it does show like in Oklahoma like some yellow and orange close to 2.5 parameters. So please be careful. And a little bit earlier in the evening around 2Z shows there. And northern Texas does show some small some parameters too. So be aware northern Texas too around that time, and then like 1Z in the evening. like late evening, shows some around Kansas, but shows more parameters in Oklahoma. So stay safe throughout Kansas, Oklahoma, and all of the areas under the tornado threat. Like there's the updraft helicity, the probability of like rotating updrafts with severe wind and hail does show, let's see, until the end of this run. So this run is until Friday. So let's see, does show the greatest tracks there in southern Kansas and central to northeastern Oklahoma, and show some really strong tracks eastern Kansas and southern Kansas. So be careful with those severe storms. And so some tracks all the way into Iowa there, throughout Missouri. So be careful in all of those areas. And let's see if I find something here, because there's the wind gusts from the HUR, but I don't know if it just shows wind by itself or shows like the storm wind gusts. But let's take a look. So shows like this evening, this is the HUR, shows some areas of like some 49 to 53 mile per hour gusts through Oklahoma there. And like this is now shows the cold front moving there, some gusty winds throughout Oklahoma, but this that doesn't really look like storm winds. But yeah, be careful those areas. Let's see if they say something else. So yeah, so they say related to deep layer shear around 45 to 60 knots will easily support supercells associated with threat for scared hail. Initially associated with large hail may occur south central Kansas to north central Oklahoma. Any sustained supercell, given the rather favorable overlap modern instability with steepened mid-layer lapse rates and strong deep layer shear. So be aware. And then with this time in the evening, upscale growth of KLCs with the greater threat for damaging wind gusts is anticipated. This severe damaging wind threat continues until tonight, spreads eastward across Iowa, Missouri, before eventually becoming more isolated, diminishing extent into mid-Mississippi Valley. The tornado potential should also increase late this afternoon, and even as a suddenly low-level jet related with 0 to 1 kilometer SRH strengthens rapidly through 23 to 4Z. The potential for sustained supercells central eastern Kansas, north central Oklahoma remains somewhat unclear, but any semi-discrete activity will pose a threat for tornadoes, a couple of which could be strong given the favorable low-level shear hodograph curvature, and embedded vortices within the KLCs will also be possible. So be careful there. You can read more here if you want, but please stay safe. Have some ways to receive warnings, some like radios and stuff. Stay safe. So now we already have like the tornado watches there, Oklahoma and Kansas. They say EF2 plus moderate and tornadoes moderate, severe winds and hail. So be careful. They have also the severe thunderstorm watch issued an hour ago, parts of Iowa and Missouri, because the line of storms there. So severe wind high, some severe hail moderate, and tornadoes low, but you never know. So stay safe in those areas. If you check this site frequently or Twitter, you can see the massive scale discussions here. They have new ones all the time, so they talk a lot about here, so you can always check. So stay safe in those areas. The warnings, I showed you the severe thunderstorm watch and the tornado watch. Some red flag warnings still. Freeze warnings in parts of New Mexico, Colorado, even to northern Texas and Kansas, and some high wind watches in parts of Wyoming, some winter weather advisories through northern California and Washington, Oregon, winter storm warnings in Oregon, and some winter weather advisories in the Rockies. So be careful there. There I have some severe thunderstorm watches in the orange in Iowa and Oklahoma there in Kansas, and some winter storm watch in north central northern Minnesota, northern Wisconsin. So be aware in those areas. This link is also in the description, so you can check here. So be aware those areas. So let's see here, like excessive, wait, here. So today's Tuesday, they have that marginal risk of excessive rainfall from Texas to Wisconsin. So be aware there, some heavy rain with those storms from time to time. Day 2 a marginal from Louisiana to Kentucky. Day 3 a marginal in Texas and New Mexico and Oklahoma. Day 4 is light in Texas, and that day 4 there, there'll also be severe weather. We will show in a moment. And because the new system there shows a marginal from New Mexico to Illinois, and day 5 still is light from northern Texas to Missouri. So be aware, today especially, but day 4 and day 5 as well. So let's see here the storm prediction center. So this is today. Tomorrow there's a marginal from Texas to southern Michigan. So be aware tomorrow. Tornado 2% Texas and Arkansas, northern Louisiana and Missouri. So be aware. Wind 5% from northeastern Texas to Michigan, and hail less than 5%. So be aware, just some wind and a tornado or two possible. Locally strong storms, couple of which may produce marginal severe gusts, will possible uh, Thursday morning and afternoon from the Midwest, Northeast Texas, and northern Louisiana. So be aware. For tomorrow, Thursday, and happy Halloween. And shows like Friday, day 3, shows another marginal starting in New Mexico and Texas, and shows in Oklahoma Panhandle 2, so 5% probabilistic, and more storms throughout the south and some in the northwest. A few strong storms producing marginal hail are expected to develop Friday night over southern high plains region. So be aware there Friday night, and day 4 Saturday we have a 15% risk of severe weather in New Mexico, Texas, and Oklahoma. So this is like a slight risk already for day 4 Saturday. So be aware there in those areas. So they say an upper level troughs forecast to move into the desert southwest on Saturday. A southwestern mid-level flow remains over the Rockies and Great Plains. A moist areas will be in place for much of the southern central plains along the western edge of the moist areas. Moderate stability is forecast to develop eastern New Mexico into West Texas. Thunderstorms develop along and near this instability axis with a chance to be severe. Supercells could produce large hail and isolated severe wind gusts on Saturday, day 4. So be aware for Saturday. And Sunday, we have another slight risk for day 5, Sunday, from northern Texas to southern Nebraska. So this is day 5 already, a slight risk. So be aware, 15% chance of severe weather. So they say, uh, yeah, that's what I just read. It's like Saturday to Monday. So let's see, on Sunday, a low level moisture evacuation is expected to continue over much of the Great Plains as upper level trough moves across desert southwest. Model forecasts a reasonably good agreement with the excess moderate instability and developing Sunday afternoon from northwest Texas and into western central Oklahoma, northward into Kansas. Moderate deep layer shear, and steep mid-level lapse rate should support supercell development, potential for isolated large hail wind damage. The threat should persist through the evening, scare severe storms eastward across southern central plains. So be aware for next Sunday, day 5, in those areas. So Monday is still too low. Tuesday, Wednesday. So be aware, day 4 and day 5. And today, of course, the enhanced risk. So let's see, still some snow occurring in the Rockies, some heavy snow in Wyoming, and some mixed precipitation in other areas there. So be aware, day 2, some heavy snow in mountains of Oregon, some snow in Idaho and parts of Montana, Wyoming, and day 3, some more snow and mixed precipitation in the northwest. So be aware. So the precipitation does show today the storms there and the rain in the northwest. Day 2 more in Oregon, in Northern California. There's still the cold front with the storms. Day 3 more parts of Oklahoma and Texas again. And California shows more California there. And Oregon, the northwest. Day 4 more from Texas, Oklahoma, all the way into like the Midwest. Day 5, Monday actually, shows more to like Kansas, Oklahoma, and Missouri, close to 2 inches or more. For next Monday, all the way to the Midwest, some 1 inch or something. Day 6, next Tuesday, some more storms there, and rain in the Northwest still. And day 7, a little bit of storm still. So day 1 through 7 shows the accumulation of all these 7 days shows more than 7 inches throughout Kansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, and 5 inches from Oklahoma to western Illinois, and shows a lot in the Northwest as well. So be careful with the storms in those areas and everything. The snowfall probability shows more in Colorado, Northern California, and Oregon and Washington there. So be aware. Day 2 shows more in Oregon, might have some heavier snow in the mountains for Thursday, and then in Idaho too. And day 3 shows more across the Northwest. Day 4, still some probabilities. Day 5, in the lower Rockies maybe. Day 6, some more in the Rockies and Northwest. And day 7. So be aware in those areas. And yeah, and still some winter storm impacts. Expected some major impacts in parts of Oregon and near Minnesota, northern Wisconsin too. The winter storm severity, but especially in the higher mountains of Oregon there. Major to even extreme. I see some hints of purple there, so be careful. Shows like maybe because of the heavy snow, but there might be other things too. So this like day 1 through 3 shows that major, even an extreme or two, and like snowfall amount is the main risk. Snow load, not really, but in the higher areas shows all the way to extreme, and show that snow load might be a lot there, especially the snowfall amount, not really, but the ice accumulation doesn't really show much. Flash freeze shows a spot or two in Oregon and other area, but nothing crazy. And blowy snow there in Oregon, Sierra Nevada, Northern California, and some in the Midwest. So be careful there. And let's just see a quick look here for like uh, the snow. So there's the European model, shows that snow throughout Wisconsin and Minnesota, and later goes into Ontario and Quebec. Some more snow there. Next 5 days shows more snow in New Mexico, Colorado, Northern California, Nevada, and Idaho, and Wyoming, but shows heavier in Oregon there. So be aware. And this model has like some the higher peaks all the way to 30 inches in some areas. So be aware there. Has more snow throughout British Columbia, especially in the mountains, southern Alaska, and especially like the southernmost Alaska there. In the mountains, some snow showers in other parts of Alaska. Shows more northwestern territories, some central northern Yukon, and shows more snow northern Quebec and Labrador, some 70 centimeters, some more parts of western Newfoundland, and other parts of Quebec. So be aware those areas, plus the very low temperatures, it's like -10, -14, and then this cold comes all the way down to like -1 in Ontario, some -3, and if we switch things up here, shows in the Rockies there's so like -5 Fahrenheit in the highest mountains, some 8 Fahrenheit. This is the European model. The official forecast might be different, but like shows some 6 Fahrenheit in parts of Wyoming, 14 Fahrenheit in the mountains of California, some like 27 Fahrenheit. So be aware. And in Alaska, of course, like -12 to to even like -16 Fahrenheit, more throughout most of Alaska, but it fluctuates throughout the days. Southeastern Alaska, with the influence of the ocean, might be less cold, but be aware of the cold there. Shows like this kind of fluctuates. Like Saturday the 2nd shows a little bit colder temperatures. Northern Michigan, some sounds like 33 to 30 Fahrenheit, and throughout northern Maine, New Hampshire. So be aware. And even on Sunday the 3rd shows this cold coming all the way down to Pennsylvania, some 31 Fahrenheit, and still on the west, very cold throughout these days. In the afternoon, warms up a little bit, but still cold in the mountains. So be aware in those areas, and we might talk in more detail the temperatures in the next videos, but be aware. The wind gusts, there are those wind gusts now in Nunavut, northern Manitoba, so be aware there. Into Quebec, potentially some 70 to 80 kilometer per hour gusts in parts of Quebec there. Unlike tomorrow, Thursday, shows northern Labrador too. It shows those gusty winds in the Great Lakes there in the Midwest, potential like some like 43, 47 mile per hour gusts. It goes into Michigan, might affect southern Ontario, New York, and parts of New England too, with some gusty winds Friday, and sometimes in Oregon across the west. Especially the European model show like some all the way to 60 mile per hour gusts in Oregon, although on Friday, and then we might have those new systems on like on the west coast there later, and like that's big system in Alaska on November 4th shows too. And before that, on November 1st, we have that first big system in Alaska, November 1st, in the Aleutian Islands, like 65 mile per hour plus gusts there. So be careful, this might bring some more snow there. And like the rainfall does show uh, some that system in the west coast there. There's snow in British Columbia and parts of the Pacific Northwest and southern Alaska. Then the system goes, shows some purples, like some slight probabilities of freezing rain, including in Alaska, but does show that snow like coming Thursday into Alaska, more about southern Alaska and parts of Yukon too. And then so like Friday, still some mixed precipitation in the northwest and some snow in British Columbia as well. It goes all the way down to the Sierra Nevada on Saturday. Also shows some freezing rain and shows those snow showers in Quebec there. And especially this cold front, they'll bring snow to like Minnesota and Wisconsin and go towards Ontario and Quebec with that snow. And more rain like Atlantic Canada on November 2nd. So be aware in those areas. This does show some snow probabilities like Alberta and Saskatchewan and some ice on November 2nd. And then later on the 3rd shows some snow too. And now the model showing some freezing rain on Monday the 4th in Manitoba and like southern Nunavut. So we'll keep monitoring this. The GFS does have that snow there, a tiny bit of freezing rain, but more snow. So be aware in those areas and stay safe. There's the rain accumulation, there's no accumulation for the GFS. Here's like the system starting with snow in South Dakota and all the way into eastern Quebec, and shows like more snow, especially Minnesota and Wisconsin. The snow across the west in the next 5 days and those areas. So be aware and stay safe with the severe weather and stuff.